Right, so quick disclaimer on this video. This is not, I don't know really what this is. I suppose it's an update. It's not really anything, it's just kind of, I was just going to go through some of the observations I found on this kit, just to kind of back up the review, I suppose. So maybe review 2.0 as it were, but word of warning, there will be quite a bit of waffling in this, hardly any modelling, and possibly quite a small amount of rivet counting. So if that's not your bag, then this probably isn't the video for you, but nevertheless, give it a go and see how you get on, and I won't be offended if you tune out halfway through. So I've progressed on a little bit with this build. It stopped at places at the minute. I got the B25 on the go as well, which you may have just seen. The first part of that's gone up. I did get in some paint colours for it, by the neutral grey underneath, but there is a development on that. However, I will be going back on something I've said in the past. So I've picked up this jar of Mr. Hobby Aqueous, which I don't actually like using. Now I know most of the modelling world uses it, and it's an absolute revelation. It's the best stuff ever. I know it sprays well and everything like that, but I cannot get it to harden off and dry off whenever I use it. But I have been informed by many people on the internet that the Mr. Hobby H72 is by far the best version of Dark Earth available. So from the pot, that is. So I thought, why not give it a go? And that's what I'm going to do. I've also picked up the Mr. Colour version of it, which is obviously slightly different. Now, it is a pain that you would have thought they would have got the same tone across the two paints, because this one is, this is the lacquer version, but apparently, it's not. You can see by the top bottle top, you can see by inside. This is a lot more like the Tamiya Dark Earth, or Flat Earth, is it? Which isn't quite right either. But anyway, I digress. We don't actually need to worry about that. So we will be using the Dark Earth, and I'll get on to the rest of the colours later on. I have bought a small amount of aftermarket for this kit. I'm not going to go too mad. There isn't a huge amount available. There will be, so if you're buying this kit and it's a bit later on, there is Edward are going to be going and doing a cockpit set and a few other parts. I think some exterior stuff as well. And no doubt there'll be sort of resin wheels and all the rest of it. I'm not going to do any of that for two reasons. One, it's not out at the minute, and two, I just want to crack on and not chuck too much money at it. So first off, we've got obviously the fuselage halves that I've got here, and there's just a couple things to address on this. Now I do this in the video, and the reason I haven't got this in the build video is as I was progressing along, I was just looking at the content that I had, and I was thinking I didn't really know where I was going with it. So some of the stuff where I'm talking about what I'm doing now, I thought this is just, it's not enjoyable to watch, so I thought, well, if I do a separate video, that will show you some of this. So what we've got already is, for some reason on mine, I've got a bit of a slip in the mould on the locating pin here. Now on this side, you may be able to see that hole's not quite in the centre. It should be more centralised and sort of diagonally down a little bit. And this locating pin here was in the correct place. Now I've cut that off. I'll just show this in the video, because as I was putting it together, the locating pin was throwing it off. So you never be afraid to get rid of locating pins if they're actually detrimental to what they're meant to be doing. When you've got short run kits like Special Hobby and that, you don't get locating pins, so it's not a problem. And now that squares up, there's a lot more play. As you might be able to see here, you can go all the way down, you can go all the way up, so you'll be able to line that up a lot easier. I've left the locating pins in everywhere else because, as you can see, they're pretty good. You may also see a sanding mark here across the top of the cowling here, or the hood, or whatever you call it. There is a panel here, and this is just trying to address the first major issue, I suppose, with the kit. Is it's got this sort of strange hump there. It's meant to go from the nose, more or less straight, and then slightly curved down onto the propeller, like that. And there's a distinct sort of hump and arch. So hopefully you can see that. So what I'm trying to do is just remove a little bit of material sort of here in a straight line, just kind of take that off a bit and level it down, and I've had a look inside, and you can see there's quite a lot of thick plastic, so it should be able to come halfway down there. And I was just sanding this while it was not glued, just to kind of get a feel for it. And obviously, like I knew it would at the start, it's burred the edges in because it's been moving, but that's not a problem. I just wanted to check whether I could sand it without going over all of this fine detail, and it does look like I can. So once this is all glued together, I'll put some masking tape along the detail here, and then just sand this away until I feel like it's just kind of getting rid of this hump here. It's more sort of between halfway up this exhaust gap here and halfway up there. Just flatten that off a bit, and we should be a bit better. I'll be giving you pictures all the way through this in the top corner, or maybe overlaid while I'm talking, so you can see what I'm talking about. It's a good sort of side profile of this F. And that's about it as far as the whole look of the airframe. It is obviously a short tail, like I've said before, and everything else looks pretty much spot on. The other main problem, small problem I suppose, so we'll call that a major problem that I just said there, and then we'll call this a minor problem. So fit is very good on this kit. Most things actually snap together. In fact, those rudder pedals, I put them in there and I couldn't get them back out. So I'm very impressed with that. You don't usually get that so much with Trumpeter. So they've at least taken their time to make sure the fit is good on this kit. And that's half the battle, really. We can sort out fit. Losing my words here. We can deal with accuracy issues to an extent and live with most of it, but if the thing doesn't fit in the first place, that's a problem. So next up we've got the cockpit tub assembly, and that is now in there. And as far as the cockpit tub's concerned, there's a few little things you could add and a few little things you could argue are wrong or could be changed, and no doubt the Edward set is going to do most of that. But I can live with pretty much everything. What should be there is represented. I've got a little extra in a minute that will tart up the most of it and make the rest of it at least look good. And I think with a bit of good painting, which I'm not great at, but I'll be giving it a go. Some good hand painting, picking out the dials and stuff, I really don't think it's going to be much of an issue. Now, the one thing that is a problem is, I've just put the seat in there. The seat's very nice. Bit of extra detail is the instrument panel. Now the instrument panel itself is fine. It's more about how it's located. You've got this I forget what that's called now, a sort of shield for the instrument panel. First off, that's meant to come quite a way forward, and I'm not sure, looking at it, I got a picture here now showing you a couple shots of inside one of these cockpits on an F. I think it should come back to about here and then go over. Well, no, not even, sorry. I think it's meant to come out to the gun sight to about here, where that little piece of tube's coming out, and it should just sort of run across here and down. I'm not actually sure it's meant to go all the way up to here either. I'm going to do a little bit more research on that. I think it's just they had some sort of strips that went from sort of there to there and up to it, and then from there to there and up to the gun sight, but the gun sight definitely protrudes through it, so something's wrong here. It should have a shroud up to about here where the tweezers are opened and running back. So that's relatively easy. I think with some thin plastic card I'll be able to just shape that and then glue it in and use some offcuts just as anchoring points here and make it look somewhat like we're seeing in the picture. And I think that's going to be okay. The next thing's the gun sight. So there's two types of gun sight, and we're focusing on one, which is I think these aircraft use both types of a gun sight, and I forget the name now. I should have looked this up. But whatever it is, this is the type that has these parts that go up here, and then the glass just goes in the back there like that on the horizontal, on the slanted part there. Now all Trumpeter give you is what this plastic is. I don't know why they just stopped there. There's not even any glass. So it didn't really represent anything, but I suppose to their credit they've done the hard bit. So this fixes on the back of the instrument panel, gives you that shape up to there, and then I've just cut some strips of plasticard and glued them on like that. And again, as I say with most things, gun sights and propeller logos, I don't know why they're not catered for. Airfix has started not including gun sights. I mean, you know, when you look at the aircraft, it's a pretty obvious part there. It cuts right through the instrument panel, right through the canopy, which is going to, the windshield's going to end here. It's all see-through. I mean, you know, it's one of the most important bits to get right, I would think. Luckily, this was an easy fix, and I didn't look. I'm sure there's even aftermarket resin pit sets. I mean, they do the German ones, so I'm sure they'll probably do the American ones. But anyway, I think that's looking like it should. And then with that shroud fixed, I think as far as the whole fuselage is concerned, that's going to be okay. And looking at, again, some of the builds that are going on elsewhere, the rest of it builds up no problem. And I'm not going to worry about stuff missing from undercarriage and things like that. It's more just the places you're going to see it. So trying to reduce this hump here, and then just fixing a few of the small strange anomalies inside the cockpit. To be said for it, the credit, all this wiring that they've got in here, this looks absolutely correct. There should probably be, well, I don't know, I can't see if it's a modern thing or not, some kick plates here where for the wearing down on the modern aircraft I've seen, it's they've got shiny metal strips there. So I may add them, I may not, I may make a decision if I can't find any reference. It might be a more modern thing that's been added. And as I say, once the chair's gone in and the control stick, it's actually quite busy in there. It would have been nice to have a few more components separate. There are a couple dials I've got to glue to the sidewalls, but it would have been nice to have, say, this lever down here as a separate piece. And also, I'm not sure this is correct here. I think that's just meant to be a small box with 3 dials, and you've got 4 across there. But again, we're getting into splitting hairs here. That's not going to be something I'm worrying about too much. And the last thing to really mention as far as the kit's concerned and accuracy is the propeller. And the only thing that's actually wrong with this, it looks right shape-wise. It looks okay to me. I mean, it could be off, but as far as I'm concerned, it's what I'm after. But there's a unnatural seam where the 2 kit parts glue here. And as you can hopefully see, I've done pretty well to get rid of it. Now you can see some of it there, but I've used super glue, so it's going to be see-through. So I'm going to stick some primer on this, see how we're looking. Hopefully there's no ghosting or any signs of that seam, and then just sort out this panel line here and some of the riveting, and we're ready to go. You may see I've decided to glue the actual propeller blades in, and that was just because I think it was the better of all the options. Because now I can spray the nose cone, which is going to be red, so I can spray it all a light colour, then get the red paint on, then mask around tight to the base of the props here, the actual blades, and then spray all of this black, and we should be absolutely fine. And I did have where the fuselage meets, I did have, as I was pushing this in, there was a piece of plastic in that hole on the rear bit that was only letting it go in that far, but after cutting that out it still sort of catches there actually, if you can see. But as I've cut that out, it now goes in and gives you a nice natural sort of gap there. I think that's pretty much what it would have looked like. So hopefully the build's going to progress on nicely from here. As you can see, I haven't done a whole lot. The next thing is going to be painting the cockpit, getting it all together, getting the fuselage halves together, and then we do certainly rattle on through the stages then. As you can see, a lot of it's all at the start in the instructions, and then all of a sudden fuselage halves together, wings are on, and away we go. So hopefully in the next week or so I'm hoping to really have this whole thing together. So now it's on to the extras I've bought, and this all consists of decals. First off, I'm pretty sure these are going to go some way to making the cockpit look a bit better, and I've got a few other aircraft where these can be used, namely the Mustang, and I've got a Spitfire in the stash there. So these are Allied Cockpit Placode decals, as you can easily read there in 1/32 scale. World War II, and here we are on the back. Very nicely printed. Airscale are known for their quality, so there's no point getting in there. The decals are going to be really good. And you've got many duplicates of different things. It's probably easier seen here. So you've got decals to stick on these dials, these knobs here, which we've got in this cockpit. And then obviously some of the placards and these parts here that are warning signals, and it all warning signs, and it all just goes to help to give you some more detail. So again, pretty straightforward, but I think that's a good addition. So that's nice. No stencils in the kit. The kit's main downfall is decals. They are pretty problematic, and as far as I can see, none of the options that you get in the kit are actually for what the kit represents. They're all for longer tail versions of the F. You can probably get away with X55, but I've chosen not to, and you'll see in a minute. But on here, this is for this is profimodeller, and these are 1/32 stencils for the P40B, C, and E. Now the only thing on here that actually says anything about an E is up here, where it says about US Army Corps with the serial number. It's a P40E, the crew weight 200 pounds. I have zoomed in on some pictures of P40Fs, and they do have this just underneath where the pilot enters the cockpit, and I thought it was pretty straightforward to pick one of these that says an E and just cut the black line off the bottom of the E, and then we've got P40F. And this is a standard thing, 200 pounds there. That's the same for the B, for the A, so I don't think that's going to be much of an issue. Again, I'm not even going to worry if it is. I'm quite happy using these. I'm certain a lot of these would have been used over from the E to the F. We've got here for the prop blades, and they go just sort of half of that bulk of writing goes inside the hole, and then it just comes up through the propeller blade. Again, I have a picture now showing you what that looks like. And then there's just a few other small bits, and I'll use these as much as I can. And in the back you've got a little instruction telling you where they go. So that's a useful thing to add. And then I thought I could, but I couldn't live with the kit deck. So I've gone for this set from Warbirds. This is kitworlds.com, who are known for making pretty good decals of all of these sort of different Allied fighters. I think it's mainly Allied stuff. I didn't see much German on there. I've seen them at Telford last 3 or 4 years, I think, and totally didn't even pay them any attention, just sort of saw the Warbird sign, and here we are. They must be relishing the fact that Trumpeter have released this F model, because this is a set of decals for an F in 1/32, which I don't think exists before this Trumpeter model. It's been out since 2012. So it's been hanging around for a while. Now the one I'm going to pick is X21 here. I found the pictures of this very aircraft, and this is a set called Censored Tails, which were adorned with these rather attractive naked ladies, which is always a plus point to put them on an aircraft. Gives it a bit of character. This is only a snapshot in time. The chap who painted these, which is Corporal Joseph Pumphrey, I guess that is, they were quickly overpainted because the company commander didn't think it was something he wanted going on in his company, so they had to repaint over them, unfortunately. But for a period they were displayed on the aircraft. And this 2-1 is X21, sorry, is pretty much what I didn't realise this, but this is very good. This is the Africa Corps kind of Kitty Hawk colours. So you've got midstone and dark earth on the top and azure blue underneath. And I have been waiting for about 3 years to use my bottle of MRP azure blue, which I have had for an incredibly long time, after going way into the depths of what azure blue should look like and all the rest of it. So I'll be quite happy to crack that out. Now, whether this should be the US azure blue or the RAF azure blue is not something I'm going to worry about. It is going to be painted the RAF azure blue. And we've got a red spinner, so that's good to see. Now the decals These are already sold out, so if you're interested in these, if you're getting this kit and you want to switch to these decals, there is another set available, but already on hand. These are sold out, but you can probably go to Kit Decals direct, and I'm sure they'd be happy to deal with you. So here you can see the set. What we're going to be using is it's a Finella, I think it is. Hang on. Finella. Who knew? So we've got this young lady here that's going to be going on one side, and then on the other side we've got this one. So we've got 114, and then the marking, the Allied tail flash there, which has got quite usefully the 7 and the 1 printed through that red and showing through, and then we've got on the other side just this fin flash there, and then Finella will be on the other side, on the rudder. And there's a small section that's been overpainted. I'll show you these pictures now that I managed to get off the internet. So there's a small section that's been overpainted where she was put, and that's presumably overpainted the serial number. And we'll be using the Operation Torch stars as well here with the yellow ring around it. So all of that should come to give the aircraft quite a bit of character. Now the carrier film on these is extremely tight around the roundels, and then here, for instance, on the 2 and the 1. Oh, we're saying that we don't want the 2 and the 1 anywhere near each other. There is carrier film attaching the 2 and the 1, so we'll need to be cutting around that because it goes 2 and then one of these and then the 1, and the X is separate, and the carrier film sort of goes to about there and then to about there, and then all of this is carrier film joining the 2 and the 1. But that's nothing to be surprised at on what would be probably short run decals, I suppose. It's a smaller company producing the decals. So there we are, a bit of a different video I suppose, but hopefully it's of interest. Stay tuned on the channel for the build video of this. I hope to have this up in a week or so. Pretty much taken us through most of the build. I may get bogged down in places, and obviously it might take a bit longer with life getting in the way, but that's the plan, so hopefully I can stick to it. And I'll probably break the video down into 2 parts, the build and then painting and weathering. And as I say, hopefully that helps. If anyone's looking at this kit, pretty much the things that need to be right out of the box they're pretty spot on. The thing with the top of the cowling, well, you know, I don't know, you probably live with that. In fact, you can see a lot better here what it's meant to be like, and it's just this sweep. But nevertheless, I'm not going to worry too much about that. I'm going to fix it as much as I can, and then, you know, live with what we've got left. I think overall it's a commendable effort from Trumpeter, and there are a few issues that I think aren't really forgivable, like the decals and the marking options. But again, if you're happy to get a set of decals, well then that pretty much corrects that, and these are a nice option. And as I say, there's another set for the F as well, which is another couple of aircraft, so well worth having a look at. Stay tuned to the channel, like I say, and hope that video was of interest.